So we'll just wait for people to start arriving on the page. Just give it 60 seconds for people to arrive in. Right. So if you're just joining us at the minute for the Facebook Live session, we have experienced a few technical difficulties in relation to cameras. You can sit and look at me all night if that suits you, but we can't bring Mick on camera at the minute, but we have got Mick's audio. So we're just going to wait till there's about 10 people in the room, and then we're going to kick off, and we'll start taking questions. You can, if you've got questions that you've got copied and pasted ready to put in, you feel free to put those into the actual room now. Or we are having some questions that have come through via email this afternoon. So we can have a look at those until people want to start putting their questions in. So we'll just give it a few seconds for people to arrive. Yeah, so we're up to 13 viewers now. 12, somebody's not impressed. So let's kick off then. So if anybody wants to put this, yeah, just to let everybody know, the screen is black because we are just experiencing some technical difficulties, and Mick can't come on camera at the minute because I don't know if his phone's old, but he can't get on at the minute because Mick's old, so maybe maybe that's why there's no picture. So just to confirm, there is no picture. I'll just type it in. There is no picture as technical issues, just audio. So if, as we're going through, if anybody notices that people are experiencing a problem and they're not seeing the picture, somebody else could be good enough just to pop a message on to say that if people keep repeating that question. So we're ready to kick off. So welcome, Mick. Good to have you on board with us tonight, mate.
Yeah, good evening, Chris.
And we're going to start off by just seeing if we've got a question coming through on the Speedway Shout page. Feel free to post your questions in there if you'd like to ask a question. If not, what we'll do first of all is we'll go to some of the questions we've had through via email this afternoon. So the first one is, Mick, did you send an email to the council to save the stadium, as did quite a lot of the fans?
Yes, I did.
Okay. Question number 2 is, how well do you think the team are going to do this year? Because obviously, National League, you're used to sort of the big leagues and stuff. We did have the Coventry Storm team in the past, but what are you thinking plans-wise for the team this year? Are you going in to sort of take the floor with everybody, or is it just dipping your toe in the water this year?
A bit of both, really, Chris. I mean, I like the team. I think the general consensus is that we've got a team that's capable of making the playoffs. We've certainly got the best number 1 in the league, in my opinion, in Jack. So I'm pretty optimistic.
Okay, we're going to move to one of the questions that's come through on the Speedway Shout page now, because we're starting to get questions on there. So the first one comes from Matt, and he says, can you understand the lack of support from the Coventry fans for the Leicester project?
Yes, I can, but it's just it's a really difficult situation, Chris. I do understand how the fans feel, but at the same token, you know, it's the case of, you know, if we didn't race at all, yeah, it may well be lost forever. And it's just, my opinion is, you know, I wanted to keep the club racing. I want them to be team to race and stay alive.
Yeah, that makes sense. Just check if anything else has come through there. No, so we're going to go back to the questions that we've received in by email. Is there any chance of a student rate or a young adult rate, as few people have expressed disappointment that there isn't one, especially as children are expected to stay in some sort of education now until the age of 18?
Yeah, I mean, I may, look at it at a later stage, Chris, but at the moment, we just simply have no real idea what sort of support we're going to get. I mean, we've gone in very competitively, £13 with the programme, and all children are free. And I know it doesn't please everybody, and I do sympathise, but, I may review it again at a later stage.
Okay, that's fair enough. This is quite a big question, and it is, why wasn't somebody who's Speedway orientated offered the opportunity to purchase Coventry as opposed to Brandon Estates? So why wasn't it put out to the Speedway world?
Well, quite simply, Chris, that is a wonderful question, because I've been asking that same question for a long time. Nobody connected to Speedway, I certainly wasn't, ever offered the chance to buy the stadium or even have my name put forward to Nat West. We just didn't know. Nobody knew about it. And at that sort of price, there would have been no shortage of investors from the Speedway fraternity, let alone the stock car fraternity.
Give us some figures in relation to it for anybody who's not aware of what the actual whole stadium area went for.
I believe it was 2.2 million. I mean, there are figures mentioned of 2.7, but I believe it was 2.2.
Which, in the grand scheme of things, when people sort of live in £400,000 or £500,000 houses, it's like 4 of those. So it wouldn't take a huge commitment for people to get involved, and have perhaps funded that from the Speedway world.
Well, exactly, Chris. I mean, just listening to the same Coventry Speedway group, there's an abundance of wealthy people who quite clearly could have afforded the stadium. So why wasn't it offered to the stock car people or the Speedway people? There's no doubt whatsoever that given the opportunity, Speedway and stock cars would have bought that stadium.
Okay, fair enough. Just to reiterate, if you are listening in, we are having some technical problems in relation to bringing Mick on air this evening. So you could have looked at me all night, but then that wouldn't necessarily have been pretty. So we've just dropped the cameras off, so it is just audio, but it won't affect anything in relation to any questions that people want to ask. We will use priority to the people who are tuned in into the Speedway Shout page question-wise, but we have got a fallback of some questions which we've had by email, which we'll make sure we get through all the questions tonight during this live Facebook. So the next one is, if there's a low attendance at Leicester for Coventry's meetings, is there any chance that it could fold mid-season, or are you committed to see the season through?
No, 100% committed to see the season through. There's no doubt about that.
Okay, so the season will get all the way through. There's one here from Ian. What are you doing to either secure a return to Brandon or a possible new site?
Well, I can comment on that. Obviously, long before the Save Coventry Speedway campaign group, which I must say are doing a fantastic job, but long before the meetings they've had, I've already had those meetings, with Rugby Borough Council, Coventry Council, and I'm on the phone 2 or 3 times a week speaking to, Councillor Michael Stokes, leader of the council, and, and he really is championing our cause. It's going to be very difficult, land is hard to come by, but, that's all we can do, really. Keep looking for a piece of land, and, there's nothing. Believe me, Chris. How do you honestly think I feel? We had the best stadium in the country, the best support, best facilities. We had everything at Coventry, and it was taken away from all of us. And I would love nothing than to get back to Brandon. I really would. It'd been a dream come true. But at the same time, I'm a risk, and the campaign group are doing such a good job, and I think they need to continue doing that. And I need to focus on the bees. That's it. I have to concentrate on the bees and keep us racing.
Okay, I'm not sure who it's from, but I've had a text message come through, which is a little bizarre, so we weren't taking text, but it says, Mr. Horton, do you think the Bees will ever be back at Brandon? So not sort of what you'd hope for, but in reality, do you think they will actually ever be back at Brandon?
My heart would say yes, obviously, Chris, but it's going to be very, very difficult. You know, you've got to appreciate, well, not appreciate, that's the wrong word, but you've got to realise now that you've got a company that's gone in there who are developers, you know, and they were offered the stadium, they bought the stadium, they made no secret of the fact they wanted to be developers. We don't want it, residents don't want it, you know. It's a tough question. You know, it's going to be such hard going. You know, we've got to keep talking, trying to talk to them, negotiating with them, hoping the council negotiate with them. You know, but I mean, if you've got a company, if you've got developers hell bent on like developing, they could be sitting on this for years. You know, I mean, it's probably a given that they won't get the planning permission, Chris. But you know,
we've just actually had that question come through off Ashley, and he's put, "Do you think Brandon Estates will ever get planning permission?"
Initially, I don't think they will. No, and I think we're all very confident on that they won't get that planning permission. However, you know, as I said, we've got to be realistic here. I mean, the chances are they will appeal. You know, and I say to the Secretary of State, and the time period on it, Chris. That's my biggest concern. This could take years. I mean, they might just sit on it. You know, and that's no good to us as a club. You know, what we need to try to do is obviously keep working hard to try and get back to Brandon. If that's not the case, then we need to sit down and negotiate. You know, a Section 106, perhaps. You know, where they invest back into the community, help us find a new home.
Well, we've had a question come in from Gordon who's put, do you think Brandon Estate should help towards a new stadium if they did ever get the go-ahead to build on Brandon as part of the deal? Or maybe they shouldn't even get the authority to build until a new stadium's in place?
Well, I think that's what would have happened. I'm almost certain that is what would happen. I mean, obviously, you know, I think that Rugby Borough Council will certainly be approving of something like that, you know, because we need a new home. It's as simple as that. So I have no doubt whatsoever that a deal will be put in place if at any time they were to get planning permission.
Okay, we've had someone just arrive a little bit late, and it was just a question which you did address at the start of the actual session. So this will probably be available for people to listen back to afterwards, as long as it saves okay and we can post it, so you'll be able to listen back. But the question that's just been repeated again there was, did you put in an objection to the Rugby Council?
Yes.
Okay, so we covered that. So we're short on questions on the actual Speedway Shout page, so if you do want to ask a question on there, feel free, and we'll give that a priority. We're going to go back to the actual questions that we've had come through via email. Would Mick admit that things could have been handled better regarding the situation at Brandon?
Yes, I will admit to that. It was I sort of stuck in the middle, really, Chris. It's like I was damned if I said anything, and I was damned if I didn't, you know. And I do regret that. I wish I'd have said a lot more sooner, but I've been trying to sort of like, you know, tread on the right side and saying the right words, try to, you know, see if there's a way back in at Brandon. You know, it's been horrible, you know, and all during that time, during the winter, you know, there was a time when perhaps a deal was there for Mr. Sandu. You know, there's been so many negotiations that have been going on, you know, and I wasn't at liberty to say anything at the time, you know, and yes, I do regret it. You know, believe me, it's not been very nice for me.
Okay. I mean, if people are listening to this, obviously it is the opportunity for fans to sort of put any questions that they want to Mick in relation to anything Coventry Speedway Rise. So it won't particularly run smoothly this evening. It will sort of be backwards and forwards a bit, depending on the questions that come in. But we'll try and keep it together as much as we can. The next question is off Matt, and he says, actually, no, it's off Ian, and it says, if Mick is doing the same as the Save Coventry Speedway group, why aren't you doing it together?
Well, you know, I met with Jeff Davis face to face a few weeks ago, and I think, you know, I think he was sort of I mean, I personally believe we should be as one. I'll make that very, very clear. That's my personal view. We should be in this together. Okay.
Okay.
However, you know, the campaign group are focusing very much on the efforts to save Brandon, which is admirable. Not 100% certain that you know, they should just be going that way. I'd like to see a bit more support towards these racing this season, but you know, it is what it is.
Okay. The next question is off Matt. And this is the final question we've got on the Speedway Shout page in a minute. So if you've got any more questions, feel free to post those in as we go through. Do you think there's more chance of Coventry or Oxford reopening, or are both ultimately unlikely to ever happen?
I think there's more chance of Coventry opening.
And is that purely based on the fact that it's not been so long, or?
Well, yes, exactly, Chris. As I say, it's still very, very raw, you know, and there's still a lot more discussions to be had. I'm certain of it.
And does that sort of emphasise your reasons for keeping the name going this year as opposed to letting it drift away?
Yeah, again, it's my personal opinion. Chris, I honestly believe if a D's team does not go on a track, okay, within 3 years, it'll be lost forever. Okay. And that's my belief. You've got to keep racing, no matter what level you're at. You know, we've got to keep racing.
Yeah, which fits quite nicely with the next question, which is there a longer-term option to run at Leicester if it turns out to be a viable option and nothing else is on the agenda sort of in the near future? Is it 1 year, or can it be extended?
It certainly can be extended. It's you know, I'm very grateful to Damien Bates and Mark Bates at Leicester. But, you know, both parties are taking it one step at a time, you know, because we don't know how it's going to work. It could be good for both parties, and then we will extend. And we really have got to review it. But, you know, at the same token, I think if we haven't found a home within 3 to 4 years, then I fear the worst.
Okay. Next question is, will the team have a sponsor? Is anything set up in line with that as yet?
We have got no sponsors. We've got no sponsors whatsoever, Chris. Well, I tell a lie. We have got we've got a small sponsorship from Bill Bates, which is we're very, very grateful for. And our thanks is to Andy for that, and that's really kind of him. But you know, we have no other support at the moment. I can see both sides, Chris, from the fans' point of view and the potential sponsors. It's so raw. Everybody's hurting, but you know, we need their support, both sponsorship-wise and the fans.
Okay, I'm going to skip forward to one of the questions that sort of links to that in a minute. And in relation to fans coming through the doors for the home meetings at Leicester, is there a break-even figure, numbers-wise, of people coming in that will allow that to happen for it to keep running without it making a loss?
Yeah, I'm estimating 350.
So you need at least 350 people through the turnstiles just to break even on a home meeting?
Yes.
Okay, so that covers that. So that's the break-even figure. Any particular reason why you've chosen to use the name Coventry Bees as opposed to the Coventry Storm, with it being National League?
Because we're not running a Coventry Storm. We are just one club. we have just got one team racing, Chris. We are the Bees. We're the Coventry Bees. No matter where we go, if we've got one team racing, whatever level, it will be the Bees.
Okay. Next question that's come through is from Ross. He says, I think I can recall an article recently where Mick was quoted as saying that in the top flight it cost the home promoter between 18 and 19 grand a meeting. Is this accurate? And during his tenure, what was the average gate for the Bees?
Well, that figure is very accurate.
Yeah.
And as I said, you know, any top flight club will tell you, my fellow promoters, they are working very, very hard just to stand still, really, you know, and the work they put in is just really amazing. You know, from the Bees point of view, from attendances, it varied. It varied from sort of like anything from 1,200 to sort of 1,800, you know, depending on what the fixture was. I mean, if we had, you know, we had a 50-50 split on concessions and adults. So, you know, and we believe me, were one of the very best supported clubs.
Yeah, that's fair enough. We're out of questions at the minute on the Speedway Shout page, so if you do want to bump your question forward, and if I've missed a question, I'm liking the questions as we go along, but if I've missed one, then feel free to repost it. We're going to move over to some of the questions we've had emailed through then. So, can the club put transport links to Leicester onto the website?
Well, you know,
I mean that's basing it on that most of the fans are obviously. I mean, obviously I've been a Coventry fan for all my life, and I live in Stoke-on-Trent, so that wouldn't assist me. But if your majority of fans are in the Coventry area, are you putting any links on to sort of guide people how they can sort of get there, or has any provision been made to sort of make that a possibility, or spoken to local transport companies or anything?
Yeah, I'll certainly look at it. I certainly can put some sort of links on the website. That we can do. As I say, I'm obviously not from the Coventry area, but yeah, I'll certainly look into that, Chris.
Okay. Next question is, when is a new co-promoter being announced?
We don't need to have a co-promoter in the National League.
Okay. And you don't have any plans to put one in place?
No, we don't. You know, my very good friend Neil Watson, as you know, is now a co-promoter at Peterborough, which is great, and Neil continues to help behind the scenes with me, very much involved, very much has Coventry in his heart. So, you know, we're more than capable to, you know, do the work needed.
Okay, let's have a look. We've got another question that's come through from Ian. He says, do you think running at Leicester will play into the hands of Brandon Estates, re their claims that the Bees have already got a new home?
I certainly hope not, Chris. I mean, it's like I can't account for what they might be thinking, but you know, again, I keep going back to it's my belief that any kind of Bees team racing is better than none at all.
Yeah. Okay. Your next question is, well, I think you've answered that. Does running at Leicester help the club in the long run, and if so, why? As you say, it's keeping the name alive as we go through. So let's move on to the next one. Will there be an opportunity at any point to have a face-to-face meeting with the fans, as opposed to like what we're doing tonight, and Councillor Stokes and possibly Sandu?
Well, I can tell everybody here and now, Chris, that you know, during my face-to-face meeting with Jeff Davis, I put that offer to him, and I said I would love nothing more than to sit at a table with Councillor Michael Stokes, Mr. Sandu, not a Jeremy Hebert, and Mr. Sandu, and even possibly someone from Brandon Estates, and let's get everything on the table. Let's get everything on the table, and everybody have their say, and then the proof will come out.
Okay, there's a couple of Brandon Estates and financial ones that have just popped up onto the Facebook page. So let me just expand this so I can read these through for you. This is from David. He says, Mick has gone on record as saying that Brandon Estates is not funding the Leicester venture. However, it's a matter of record that Mick has provided financial info regarding the viability of Speedway at Brandon. This makes it look like Mick is supporting Brandon Estates with their planning application, which is very unwelcome. It's not a big step to assume that Mick has received a fee for doing this. Can you confirm, or otherwise, that you have not received any funds or payment from Brandon Estates whatsoever?
Well, first of all, yes, I can confirm that, Chris. But I would like to stress, which I said earlier, I do hope the fans will just consider how I actually feel at the moment. Because, as I say, you know, I bought the club when we had the best of everything at Coventry, and that was taken away from me. Why on earth would I be happy with that? Why on earth would I want to support Brandon Estates? I've lost all that. Chris, I've lost it all. Yeah? And I've got the club. The riders, our riders alone, I've got 10 days in which to, you know, sell these riders. You know, I've got to help subsidise the club this year. It will be my own personal company and the sale of our riders that are going to help subsidise our club. And as I say, there's not a lot I can do. And, you know, I am unhappy about the whole situation. You know, as I say, I did not ask to be chucked out of that stadium. You know, it infuriates me. It really does. Okay.
I think this has kind of been covered, but the question is, what financial input have you had from Brandon Estates? I know at some point, I vaguely remember, was there a case that if the team were on track, they were looking to be a sponsor at some point or something?
That's right. That was the beginning of last season, right, when we were going to go to the, we were going to stay in the Elite League as it was, running at Leicester, and that was where the sponsorship was to come into place. But that never happened because obviously we didn't get on track.
Okay. Yeah, keep your.
You know, if I may add, you know, I'm going back to the Brandon situation, Chris. You know, and I just need fans to really understand what really went on. You know, the fact remains. Okay, it wasn't my fault that Brandon Estates had fallen out with Mr. Sandu. You know, that's nothing to do with me. Okay, they didn't want Mr. Sandu to have the lease. The lease was offered to myself. Okay, and you got to, please, I wish fans would just, you know, understand how I feel. You know, I walked into that stadium the day I flew back from my holiday. I walked to that stadium with Councillor Michael Stokes, and he will vouch for every word and what we saw. Okay, I did not trash that stadium. You know, and with the best will in the world, when Mr. Sandal says he'll put the stuff back, and trust me, I think he would have. However, the damage was already done, and Brandon Estates were not going to let Mr. Sandal in the stadium. And from an insurance purposes point of view, they're only going to instruct their own tradesmen to fix that stadium. You know, that's not my fault. And I was given that option by Brandon Estates in a meeting. That if I wanted to proceed with this lease, they were quite happy for me to carry on with this lease, but I would have to pay for these repairs, which they estimated at that time, and believe me, there was a lot of damage. Okay, regardless of what pictures you may have seen, you only have to speak to Councillor Michael Stokes, who was my witness who was there. Okay, their estimation at that time was between £500,000 and £1 million, which quite clearly I don't have the financial power to even pay for something like that.
No. Okay. Okay, keep your questions coming in, guys. We're down to a couple of questions on the Speedway Shout Facebook page, and we've got some to fall back on email-wise. If you're listening in, we've got 39 people listening at the minute. Obviously, we're going to share this at the end of the Facebook Live as well to give other people the opportunity to listen back to it. Next question we've got is from David, who says, Mick, why did you provide financial information to Brandon Estates?
I can answer that question quite clearly. Okay, the only information I got was from a research company. Okay, and they asked the only answer I gave them. They asked me an honest question, which was, okay, do we make money at Coventry Bees? The answer is no. It's no. We didn't make profit at the Bees, and only I should know that answer to that question. So I'm not lying, but I've not said anything else to them. I've told them the truth. The fact is, You know, I told them very straight, Coventry B, I told the council know this, and every Speedway fan probably knows this as well. You know, Speedway cannot survive on its own in a stadium like Brandon. It's just impossible, Chris. You know, we had the most expensive rent in the country. You know, that's fact. And one might say, well, that's counteracted with all the facilities we had, which I agree, were brilliant, absolutely fantastic. But you know, we like you say, we had £19,000 of riders' costs. We had the largest rent in the country, and all we had coming in was admissions and sponsorship from Sky TV at the time, and Build Base, and it was tough. It was really, really tough. And you know, I was only talking to Damon the other week from who owns Sheffield, and anybody would tell you the more successful you are, the more you probably lose. As strange as it sounds.
Right, something that you just mentioned there, which fits in quite nicely to one of the questions we had emailed through to us, was riders, were they contracted or self-employed?
Contracted.
They were contracted. And if self-employed, did they have I mean, these are just the questions that have come in. If self-employed, is there a unique tax reference system set up with HMRC?
I can't answer that one, Chris, to be quite honest, yeah.
Okay.
That's something that maybe Neil would be able to answer.
Right, okay, so that's fine. In those same type of questions on those lines, there's also the query, so we go on with self-employed on that. What is the trading address of Coventry Speedway? What is the VAT number of the company? Is it limited or not? And what is the company's registration number?
Well, in all fairness, Chris, I mean, we are a limited company, but, you know, I'm not really at liberty to discuss, you know, company financials at the moment.
Okay, rightio. So, as a promoter, why don't you promote the sport within the city? In Poole, they have shops set up and leaflets, buses decorated, etc. Most people within Coventry don't know when the Speedway's on or where it even is. The only press they get at the minute is the bad press from the closure of the stadium. And I suppose that's something that's going to be even more important this year with us being so far down the road at Leicester.
Yeah, it is going to be difficult. I mean, when we were at Brandon, obviously, you know, we've done a very good job in promoting. You know, we were on the cinema. We've done, you know, so many school visits, you know, with Trevor Randall and the riders. We've done, Faith. You know, we've done so much at Brandon. Obviously, it's a completely different ball game at the moment now. Leicester, it's going to be difficult. Obviously, we're planning on doing some sort of leaflet drops at the shopping centres and that. But you know, again, I've got to be honest. It's going to be difficult.
Okay, let's have a look what other questions we've got coming now. Keep your questions coming in on Speedway Shout at the minute. If you're emailing them, we're probably not going to catch those at the minute just because of the technical issues that we've got. So if you want to send them in, it's probably best to send them in via the actual Speedway Shout at the minute Facebook page. Where do you think Coventry Speedway will be in 5 or 10 years' time? Or maybe even Speedway as a whole in the UK?
Well, as far as Coventry is concerned, I think within 5 years, we have to be back at Brandon or at a new home. As I said, I think if it goes beyond that, I think it'll be lost forever. Speedway in general, my honest opinion, as I said, I really do know how hard my fellow promoters work to get this sport going. You know, we've had some tough times, but, you know, I'm really optimistic about the future for British Speedway, you know, because I know how hard the promoters are working. They all want it to work, and I do believe we'll be on the up.
Okay, the next question comes in from Sue, and she's phrased this as a when as opposed to an if. So, what will you do when your venture at Leicester fails? Are you prepared to sell the club?
Well,
I mean, that's kind of counting that it isn't going to be successful.
Well, I mean, I've got, you know, I really don't envisage, you know, not being around, Chris, to be quite honest with you. You know, we all need to keep the Coventry Bees going. You know, as for myself personally, you know, the truth is, Chris, I will come and I will go. You will come and go. Jeff Davis will come and go. Chris Harris will come and go. The most important thing is the club. If somebody, and I hear that there's lots of people out there with money. By all means, come forward. If somebody can really do some good for Coventry Bees, I'm all ears. I'm willing to listen. I'm willing to take advice. Move aside. Whatever's best for the Bees. I'm just going to do my best.
Okay. Well, as you said, then move aside. So in effect, you are saying you would be prepared to sell.
Absolutely.
Okay.
But I would only sell, if there's a way forward for the club.
Yeah.
It's no point just putting anybody in place, Chris. That doesn't achieve anything. It's got to be someone who can take the club forward, and it's got to be a really good plan that needs to sort of just step aside. Other than that, I think we all need to work together. Rather than the bickering, we need to be as one, work together. And my honest opinion is, I know there's some unhappy fans, but at the end of the day, if you want the Bees to survive, we've all got to work here. And we've got to work on and off the track.
Okay, your next question comes in from Jill, and she says, "Did the stock cars not keep the stadium running when we were at Brandon? Was the financial sort of income from that the thing that kept it all afloat?"
Well, having attended a couple of the stock car meetings, everyone knows that they get large crowds. But I can't comment about the financial situation because it was the stock cars was owned by Mr. Sandu, and he took the revenue from that. So, but just as an outsider looking in, they had great crowds, and.
But then they did come on buses and have a lot of people with them. The people who were in the stock cars.
Say that again, Chris.
The people who were actually performing, the stock car drivers, they came with huge entourages of people themselves.
Yeah, absolutely. As I say, I mean, it's I can only speak for the Bees, but the stock cars, they're desperate to get back to the stadium as well. So the answer to that question is, I'm pretty sure, that the money that came in from the stock car would have gone a long way to, keeping that stadium going.
Okay, next one comes from Sue, and she says, "What happened to the money that Brandon Estates have said that they put into an account for you to use? Has it been given back?" That's
still in my solicitor's account.
Okay. Will there be a bar?
And at some point, we'll go back.
Yeah. Next one's from Ashley. I already know the answer to this. Will there be a bar at Leicester?
Yes, there is a bar at Leicester.
Yeah. It's something that got mentioned to me earlier on, obviously, through my liaising with the entertainments team and stuff at Leicester. But what's the plan in relation to the use of the stadium and where people will be able to access on the Bees meetings?
Well, on the Bees meeting, initially what's going to happen is you've got the main car park at the front where the bar is. You're opposite the shopping centre.
Yeah.
That will be the main car parking area, and people will just walk through up towards the turnstiles. And
is it going to be similar to the store meetings that were at Brandon, where only parts of the stadium are accessible, or is it the whole circuit?
Initially, it will only be part of the stadium. Obviously, until we analyse what sort of attendances we're going to get. But if it is similar to a National League meeting, then the chances are one of the bends may be closed off, or one of the straights. But again, that's to be decided.
Okay. A question that's come in from Ian, which we kind of covered a little bit earlier on, but just to clarify it for himself, why aren't they working together? And that's in relation to yourself and the Save Coventry Speedway group. Why are you not in unison working together?
I can't even answer that question. Well, I've been asking that question myself, for a long time now.
Are you wanting to work alongside them, Mick, or are they wanting to work alongside you, or is there a difference of opinion on it?
I don't know. I would would certainly work alongside them, absolutely. You know, because at the end of the day, why would I not work alongside a group that's trying to save our stadium? You know, who wouldn't? Who wouldn't want to be part of it? You know, but you know, at the same token, you know, what's coming out from, you know, certain factions of the same Coventry Speedway is, you know, not prepared to turn up at Leicester Stadium. You know, I've got, you know, Jeff Davis goes live on the radio and says he's not going to go to Leicester to watch the beat. It's not a Coventry beat team in that tier. You know, and there's probably others that feel the same way. But do you know what I have to say about that, Chris? How disrespectful is that to those young lads who are putting on that beast race jacket, who are proud to race for our club? That is so disrespectful. As I said, it's not about Mick Horton, it's not about anybody, but those boys are riding with pride, and they deserve better than this. They deserve fans to turn up and give a bit of support, because they're going to give 100% this year. And as I said, they are so proud to be wearing that race jacket.
I mean, obviously the Save Coventry Speedway group has got its own Facebook page, and just from actually posting that we were going to be doing this Facebook Live this evening, I'd say it was there was certainly some backlash to the fact that I was getting involved with yourself and Coventry Speedway at Leicester, and it seemed to be of a general opinion that it wasn't going to be doing the sort of bringing Coventry back to Brandon any help whatsoever. I picked up on that from just a few comments that came back towards myself.
Yeah, exactly, Chris. You know, at the end of the day, none of us is getting anything from this. There's no financial reward. You know what we're doing. We are Speedway fans, and we love our club. You know, and we want to do our very best, to keep it going. And, you know, and for any fans out there who won't go because of maybe Mick Horton, or won't go because we're in the National League, you know, it's so sad. That is so sad. As I said, you know, the B Club, the name itself is bigger and better than anybody, and it'll be around a lot longer than what we will.
Okay, your next one comes in from Matt, and it's a question saying, have your fellow promoters been positive about taking Coventry into the National League at Leicester?
Well, the answer to that question is yes, 100%. Because as you may be aware, yeah, this had to go to a vote. So, you know, I'm very, very pleased. Not only did I get 100% support from the BSBA, but I also got it from the Speedway Control Board. And that's a real thumbs up for this club. You know, it was so easy just to sort of like turn a blind eye, but no, they all want Coventry to succeed. Everybody connected with Speedway wants a successful Coventry. We all want the same thing. We want to race, we want to do well, and we want to get our own stadium or get back to Brandon.
Okay, this is a kind of a repeat as well. It's a question that's just come in from Jill, so Jill may have joined a little bit late. But her question is, Jeff Davis and the group are doing an amazing job. Why don't you work together? And as you've just said, you're very happy to work with the Save Coventry Speedway group. You want to be pulling in the same direction.
Yes, that's absolutely true, Chris. And if you look at any statement that I have made, you know, in the media, I've all the way from day one, I have turned around and said, the Save Coventry Speedway campaign group and Jeff Davis in particular, they're doing an amazing job. They really are, and I take my hat from it. And I said to Jeff face to face, you know, keep that going. You're doing a wonderful job. But let's all get together.
Okay.
Work together.
We're up to 45 viewers at the minute. I haven't mentioned it so far, but if you want to share the actual Facebook Live video through your own Facebooks, it'll give more opportunity for people to tune in. We've still got several questions via email, and we've got some coming in now via the Speedway Shout page. We're not on a time limit, so we're happy enough to go through as many questions that people are willing to ask. So don't be shy with your questions coming in. The next one's from Robert, who says, will admission monies be taken at the turnstiles, or must tickets be purchased in the bar area, as it is with Leicester? I'm not sure if that's still the same anymore, to be honest. Perhaps this person hasn't been for a while, but I'm pretty sure there's like a little kiosk near the actual entrance at Leicester. You just pay and then walk in.
yeah, monies will be taken at the turnstiles.
Yeah. Okay, so that's that covered. Money at the turnstiles. Why haven't Coventry used their own assets to build a team when their own assets haven't got a team? For example, Dan Greenwood.
Yeah, that is a very good question. At that time, I had spoken to Dan, and sort of bear in mind, at that time, we've got a new team manager in place. You know, my first signing obviously was John Armstrong. You know, and I must confess, I don't know as much as I ought to know about the National League. You know, and I will confess that. So I've been taking advice, you know, from John and speaking to people connected with the clubs and that, and it came down to averages, and Dan was very unlucky not to be in the team.
Okay, let's move on to the next one. This is not really so much of a question, really, in respect to some of the questions on the style of the question we've had before, but it's who has been the most professional rider you've ever had ride for you at any of the teams that you've promoted?
I could see that. When I ran Mildenhall, it was Jason Lyons.
Yeah.
And Danny King was very, very, very good. At Coventry, what I will say, I think Scott Nichols was the ultimate ambassador for me. Okay. You know, I've got so much time for Scott, you know, and he's a wonderful servant to British Speedway, so, and very professional, I add.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, thanks for that question, Matt. Keep your questions coming in. This one's from Stephen, and he says, you wanted the best, you say, so why didn't you work with Sandu, and then we wouldn't be in this mess now?
Why wouldn't I work with Sandu?
Yeah,
is that the question?
That's the question. You say that you want the best, so why didn't you work with Sandu?
Right. I think I went over that a little bit earlier, but just to reiterate, okay, Brandon Estate did not want to work with Mr. Sandu, okay, and the lease was then offered to me. I didn't ask for the lease; it was offered to me, 3-year lease, okay. Everything was going according to plan, and Mr. Sandu quite rightly had said, "Well, that's all my equipment in the stadium," okay. And he has every right to that. And you know, as a business, I agree to that. You know, and he wanted money for those for the equipment, the lights, which I could not afford and I did not have. Okay. On the next breath, I was away. Mr. Sandu and Councillor Michael Stokes, who facilitated the meeting, were in discussions and negotiations, and you know, and I will say, because it is the truth, on a contract to us from Mr. Sandu, he asked if I would put my family home up as security, which I certainly would not do, and I don't think anybody else would. You know, I would never put my family through that. Yeah, hence that's why the lease never got signed. Hence, you know, the stadium ended up as it did. You know, it was trash basically. But you know, from a business point of view, that's perfectly understandable from Mr. Sandu. Perfectly understandable. He's certainly within his rights. I was dumbfounded really, because obviously Mr. Sandu is a very wealthy man, and to what value that equipment had, I don't know. And I say, for his love for the bees and the stocks, it came as a huge shock to me, if I'm honest with you. And it's just very, very sad. And I think deep down, I mean, I don't know, I've not spoken to Sandu, I do believe he loves the stock cars and he loves the bees. And I think, you know, what happened, it's just, you know, a terrible thing, you know. And I think what it boiled down to really, the problem lied with Brandon Estates and Mr. Sandu. And I think the Speedway was caught right in the middle from day one.
Do you think what Mr. Sandu asked you to do there in relation to putting your house up as a guarantee, had you made that decision to do it would have changed anything, even in the outcome that we are at the minute?
No, because eventually, Mr. Sandu, because I said there was no way we were going to do that. There was no way I was going to put my house under security. And in fairness to Mr. Sandu, he agreed with that in the end. But the damage was done. It was too late. That's what I was trying to say to you. You know, and Mr. Sandu would have put that stuff. I'm sure he would have put it back. You know, but Brandon Estate would not let him in and would not let him do it. And everybody that's in the know what's gone on know that's the truth. Brandon Estates would, and I'm certain Brandon Estates will tell you that themselves. It's probably been documented. They would not let him in that stadium. They would not let him do the repairs. They won't let any, you know, all these trade people, which I think is so admirable and amazing. The support that the campaign groups had, I really do think it's amazing. But, you know, in reality, deep down, you know, they can't come onto the stadium. It's owned by Brandon Estate. You know, and the insurance companies, they're going to have their own people. If they're going to repair that stadium, it'll be their own people doing it. So, you know, I just can't see, you know, where it's going to end up. You know, as I said, I don't necessarily blame Brandon Estate. They were offered a stadium. You know, they were introduced to NatWest. They were offered the stadium. The rest was history, you know, and we, stock cars and Speedway, we got left behind.
And who was it that introduced Brandon Estates to NatWest?
Well, you know, I can only assume it was Mr. Sandu. Because, I mean, how else would I know? You know, I know, you know, Mr. Sandu had contact, you know, he knew of a contact at Brandon Estates, but, you know, I can only assume that. I mean, you know, I'm not really got involved with that side of things, but I can only assume that.
Okay, well, we'll move on. A question from Steve Jones. This one's really for me, really. It's, will there be an audio podcast of this session, please? Because he needs to look through it in detail. The question should stay live via this Facebook page, Steve, through the Speedway Shout page. And we're hoping that when we press end broadcast at the end of it, it will be listened back. You'll be able to listen back to it. Facebook only usually blocks things if there's been audio or music playing that's got copyright issues. So there shouldn't be a problem with people being able to listen back to it afterwards. So again, we'd urge you to share it if you can do when you finish watching and listening to it. And also take this opportunity again just to apologise for the fact we haven't got any video on the feed with us this evening. Right, let's move on. It's a question from Billy. Mick, what do you class your track record on clubs you've had dealings with?
Probably 100%.
Okay.
Because if my track record wasn't 100%, I wouldn't be allowed to promote Speedway.
Okay, let's have a look. This is from David.
Can I?
Yeah, of course you can. Yeah.
If I can add, Chris, I've read in places about Oxford Speedway and the connection to me. I have had no connection with Oxford Speedway whatsoever. I was a team manager for 3/4 of the season for my brother, who owned Oxford and Peterborough at the same time. And because he was spending more time at Peterborough, he asked me to be a team manager, which I helped my brother out. Whatever, you know, what materialised at the end was absolutely nothing to do, and I wasn't even around.
That actually links back to a question that I had missed from Matt, actually, so I apologise for that, Matt. I'll move back to it now. If Coventry at Leicester works out, do you think it could be an in for Oxford to go to Swindon?
Oh, you know, I can't really answer that, Chris. I mean, I'd love to think so. You know, we don't want any tracks. We don't want any clubs closing down. You know, and if any clubs can come back and race or share a track, it's got to be a good thing, isn't it? Surely.
Well, you think so, yeah. Okay, we've got two interesting ones here. I'm going to move on to the one that's slightly rider related first, which comes in from Paul and says, Mick, why don't you get on with Chris Harris? He's a fan's favourite, and it's fairly obvious there's friction between you two, which I'm thinking he probably has either picked up on or is particularly noticed by Chris's article in the recent Speedway Star.
I could, Chris. I could have responded with much information, but I'm going to be professional about the matter. Yes, there was friction, and people inside the club are fully aware of the friction and the things that went on. But I'd like to be a bit more professional now, and I do not wish to discuss that now.
Okay. Question from David: if you believe in the Save Coventry Speedway effort, please can you stop helping Brandon Estates? A third division team at Leicester in no way supports our future in Coventry. So a failed venture 30 miles away just plays into Brandon Estates' hands and will also lose you money.
Well, the last part of that question is probably right. It will lose me money. However, how is it better for Coventry Speedway if there's no racing at all? How is it better? I'll throw that question back to the fans. How does it make it better? How is it going to get us back into Brandon quicker when we're not even racing? If we're not even racing, we're forgotten. We are forgotten. And I remember Jeff putting on those challenge matches, which were brilliant. But as every Speedway fan knows, it collects the Coventry. After about the second or third challenge match, you couldn't even recognise the team. And that's not the answer either. And believe me, Jeff done a marvellous job there to try and get some challenge matches going. But my answer to that question is, having no speedway that doesn't help us at all.
Okay. The next question is from Matt, and he said, had the winter of discontent not happened, where both Coventry and Peterborough promotions fell out with the BSPA, do you think Speedway will be different today?
I don't know. I wasn't around then on that winter of discontent. At that time, I wasn't involved with Speedway, so I can't comment on that at all. As I say, I didn't come into Coventry till 2013. So I read somewhere that after the championship winning side, it all went downhill. But I can't be blamed for that, right? Because I didn't come in until 2013.
Which kind of also links to Eric's question. I'm not sure there's anything else you want to add, but he just puts, how do you feel the events of 2010 and 11 played in the downfall of Coventry, and your particular views on the BSPA?
Well, I think I've answered the first part. As I said,
yeah.
I never came into Coventry Speedway until 2013. And Mr. Sanders sold those rights to me. It was Mr. Sanders' decision. He wanted out, and I bought those rights. What do I think of the BSPA? Well, I'm obviously going to be very supportive of the BSPA. I think they do. Let me just say this about the BSPA. It's a thankless task. The people on the committee that are running it, it really is a thankless task. And like I said in an earlier question, you know what? The BSPA and everybody connected with the sport, the promoters, there's so many good people that are working so hard, so, you won't hear a bad word from me about the BSPA.
Okay, your next question comes from Martin, and that is, Mick, do you feel that you communicated in the right way over this whole sorry episode? I wanted to hear from the man that owns my club.
Who asked that question?
It was from Martin.
Well, Martin, what I want to say is that I really apologise. I really do apologise because I've not handled the situation well at all. And I'll hold my hands up, and I am really sorry about that. And I just feel, from here on in now, I'm going to come forward and be open as best I possibly can.
Okay.
And I just want to add that, I've been hurting as well. I'm human. All my family, my grandchildren, they all follow the bees. We're all hurting.
Right, next one. Well, it's a second part of that question as well. It's from Martin as well, so we'll do that one first before we scoot to anywhere else. Second question: How much would you be willing to sell the club for?
I don't think you can put a price on it, Chris. It's not about money. It's not about. It's not.
Well,
about
you've already stressed it. It'd need to be the right person that could take it forward.
Yeah, it has to be, Chris. It has to be. But you know, if fans want to know how I feel at the moment, I feel as though after what's happened to Brandon, I have got unfinished business. I've lost virtually everything. All the the rider assets, all the money that went into buying this, the rights and the riders, everything else, has gone. Let
me just interrupt you there, because this kind of comes into Ian's question as well, because he's saying, why do you want to do this if all you get is grief and lose money?
Well,
are you just a glutton for punishment?
Let me tell you, Chris, and whether fans know this or not, I've been going to Speedway for nearly 50 years. Yeah? 50 years. I used to go as a little boy with my dad, okay, and we used to go to White City every week, and Wembley, the World Championships. And as I grew up, okay, and had a family, moved into Peterborough, and we went to support. That was our local track. We followed that, and then my business started to go well, and I ended up sort of sponsoring riders like Ryan Sullivan and just Crump and Santazar, and it was wonderful. And then I had an opportunity to buy into Peterborough as a promoter, and then from there went on to buy the club. And what was the rest of that question, Chris? What was the rest of it?
It was, why do you want to do it, and when all you get is grief and lose money?
I love the support. I sat in front of the BSBA and the SCB, and they asked me that same question. They said, Mick, why do you want to do this? And do you know something? They all agreed with my answer. Yeah? And I said, you know what, gentlemen? I said, it's our hobby. It's like a bug. It really is it's my hobby. I can afford to lose a little bit of money, but but not obviously not too much. But it's my hobby, and I love the sport. I love the sport, and funny enough, they all agreed. And it's people like and it's good to see new promoters coming on board as well. New enthusiasm in the sport, But it's people like us promoters. And they're all in the same boat, Chris. They've all lost money at some point or another in their Speedway lives, And do they go? No. They're still hanging around because they love it. They love the sport.
Obviously, you're the most, this is like a personal question from myself. Obviously, you're the most recent promoter with Coventry. And to me, Coventry is like one of the biggest clubs, maybe because I've always supported them. But for yourself, having dealt with clubs through your career in Speedway stuff, would you be fighting as hard for somebody else? And what makes you feel this strong affinity with Coventry now?
Just repeat that, Chris. I caught some of that.
Yeah, for yourself, would you be fighting so hard with the previous clubs that you've promoted? And what is it that makes you have such a strong affinity now with Coventry, who you haven't always been involved with?
Well, first of all, I am always going to have a soft spot for Peterborough because it's my hometown club. Yeah. Okay, so I will always have a soft spot for Peterborough, and I'll do all I can to help if ever requested. Millnall was purely a business decision with Millnall, and it is a wonderful club, absolutely wonderful club. Great supporters. It really is a lovely club. And but when it comes to Coventry, like you said, Chris, they don't come any bigger than Coventry in the stature of the club, the history, everything about it, And for me personally, I got to know so many what I call friends. I call friends what I met at Coventry. We're nice people, really nice people. Lovely fans. Yes, I know. They all expect to be at the top all the time, but in the main, they're a wonderful set of fans. And I've also got a personal issue here. This is unfinished business. I want to go out in the right manner. You know, I want to get this club back into a stadium, preferably back into Brandon or back into a new home. That's what I want to do. And if I can do that, you know, I can hold my head up high, you know, and that's really it, Chris.
Okay. A question from Sue. I'm not sure what this relates to because it could have been something we were discussing several minutes ago, but it says, and again, you've just admitted you still have money given to you by Brandon Estates. Don't you agree it looks dodgy? I'm not sure what you said that gave that across.
No, I think she's misunderstood. Basically, what I'm saying is, those monies in 2016 were held in my solicitor's account.
I see.
Okay.
Yeah, you did mention that your solicitor's account.
They were never distributed because we didn't raise that season.
Right. And have they asked for them back? Have they asked for that money back?
Yes, they have.
Okay. Right. Have new sites been looked at for a new stadium for Coventry?
There's been obviously I think it's been publicly said there was obviously the piece of land opposite the golf course was one piece of land that was considered, but I believe that's not a viable option now. You know, I mean, Rugby Borough Council and Coventry have been very. I've sat down with the planning department and clearly there is a lack of land or suitable land. You know, and you know, one of the hardest things, Chris, one of the hardest things, and I think, you know, Speedway fans are very, very sensible fans, and they know the answer to this. The problem is, you know, there's not. I'm not sure if it's like, you know, general population want a Speedway stadium, you know, and that's what we're fighting against. You know, it's not the sort of thing. It's like top of everyone's list. Well, let's do a Speedway stadium. You know, and that's one of the things I think probably a lot of clubs face. You know, but I think with Coventry, you know, it is a bit unique. You know, it's been there for so long. I mean, built around the stadium, so I think we are a little bit unique. And I think even if we can't get back to Brandon, I think everybody will see it right that we get a new home that's funded by Brandon Estates.
Okay. I'm going to just shoot to some of the questions on the emails now because we've got a few more on the actual Speedway shouts. Keep those coming in. Keep sharing the page so people are aware this is going on. And we're just going to move to a question on here. Why was the lease not signed in November 2016 for the Bees to continue racing at Brandon? Do you have the finances personally required to give Coventry a new home? And do you require financial backers to move forward and bring Speedway back to Coventry?
Oh, okay.
So first of all, let's go for the lease. Why was the lease not signed in November 2016?
The lease was not signed in 2016 because the stadium was trashed.
Okay.
Mr. Sandu obviously had caused sufficient damage that was witnessed by Councillor Michael Stokes. Brandon Estates called me into a meeting and gave me the option. Their surveyor was there on the same day as Councillor Stokes and myself, and it was estimated between £500,000 and £1 million worth of damage. Okay? The option was given to me. I could keep the 3-year lease, which, may I say, I was quite happy that Mr. Sanders had that lease. I really was. Quite happy and pay the rent. However, they didn't want to deal with him, and they would only put the lease to the Speedway, which is well documented. Okay. And unfortunately, they gave me the option. They had said, if you want to proceed with this, okay, it will need repairing. And it will be to their standards. Their insurance company will have to come in. And if it was to be £500,000, I certainly didn't have those funds. So I had no option whatsoever.
Which kind of answers the next part of the question, which is, do you have the finances personally required to give Coventry a new home? And do you need financial backers to make that happen?
I need financial backers to make that happen.
Okay. Right, a quick one. This is quite an easy one, I would imagine. From Matt on the Speedway Chat page, who says, if a top league meeting costs around about 18 grand, what would you anticipate a National League meeting will cost to run?
About 4,000.
About 4,000. Okay. You may want to just pick up on this. Someone's commented in relation to the fact that you mentioned that you were considering it like as a hobby. Obviously, you took it very seriously. You didn't mean that you took it as a hobby.
No, well, I mean, you know, what do I say when I say it's a hobby? Do you know the way I look upon, you know, Speedway has declined. Okay, has declined. You know, the attendances have not been as great as they have been over the years for various reasons. You know, as I say, hobby. You know, maybe it's the wrong word, but it's my passion. You know, I'm passionate about Speedway. You know, I never rode a Speedway bike. I'm too scared. You know, but I love it. I just enjoy it. And you know, people in my era and older than myself, you know, you talk to them and say, what do you remember about Speedway? Oh, it's that Castellar, you know, the smell and the shale, you know, and, you know, some people love their football. I mean, I love football, but, you know, as I say, it's a passion, Chris.
Okay. Next one. Hi, Mick. During your time as a promoter at Coventry, we didn't seem to go many weeks without you falling out with individuals or groups connected to the Bees. Just concerned that this might carry on with our association with Leicester and would appreciate your views.
Could you ask that person? They just enlighten me on what the situation was, who I fell out with. They're probably correct. They're probably correct, but you know, they can just remind me of some instances. I can answer.
It's one that we had through via email. That is, so it's perhaps not somebody who's listening at the minute to be able to make a comment on it. But if
what I will say, you know, I fell out with various promoters, you know, when defending my club, you know, which I'm sure is no different to themselves, you know, and that's the way it is.
And I suppose as individuals, looking back at it, obviously it was widely publicised. Myself and yourself had words, but at the minute we're looking bigger than that to do something to keep the name of the club going, because obviously we had words amongst ourselves.
Absolutely, Chris. You're absolutely correct. You know, you and I have not kissed and made up. We've sort of put our heads together and said, you know what? Like I said earlier, the club's big enough. Always will be big enough. So if we can't, you know, if people like yourself, and there's lots of good people who've done a lot of work for Coventry, you know, they should all be doing the same things you are. Come forward and do what's right for the club.
Okay, next one. Why, when there must be dozens of suitable brownfield sites in the area, have you colluded with Brandon Estates to fly in the face of established planning law and propose a housing development in the Greenbelt?
Well, for starters, I do not support Brandon Estates one bit. Okay, like I said earlier, after what I've lost and all the fans have lost, that it take, you know, why on earth would I want to support them? You know, that's a strange question.
Okay, this one you may equally find strange, but I don't think it'll need more than a very short answer from you. Have you been involved in an agreement with Brandon Estates to lie about the viability of Brandon and gained a financial reward?
No.
Okay. I think we've pretty much done all the questions that we've had through by email. If anybody's listening,
you know, going back to that, Chris, can I just say, you know, we have lost our stadium. You know, we lost one of the best stadiums in the country, best crowds, best facilities. Why? Why would I want to lie to support it? What? You know, what do I gain out of it? And if it's a financial gain from it, well, why not just keep it myself? You know, I don't know. I just don't get it. I just don't get it. You know, why? Why would I be selling our riders, Chris? Why would I be selling them? Do you think I want to sell them? No. I've got to do what I can to keep the club going.
When you mentioned earlier on, I don't know if people will understand it, but you mentioned you got a set amount of time to sell the riders. What's that in relation to?
you know, as a National League club, you can assets, but you cannot command a loan fee. Okay?
Yeah.
Now, obviously, we've got no sponsors. I mentioned it earlier. We've got no support at the moment. At the moment, we have no support. We've got no sponsors. You know, we don't have an influx of money coming in. Okay? And I've got to use everything I possibly can at my means to sort of bring in the revenue. And if I can't, you know, the rules say the National League Club can own assets, but you cannot command a loan fee. Okay? That being the ruling, okay, I've got to either sell the riders or I've got to pass them on to another club.
Right, we're through with all the email questions. So any questions now are going to come through via the Speedway Shout page. So we're going to try and zip through some of these as quick as we can because we're up to around about an hour and 15 minutes. We're not on a time limit or anything, but obviously people have been listening for quite a while now, so they may want to take a break or whatever. So let's just have a look back and see where we're to. Martin, who asked a question earlier on in relation to something, and you came back with it, said that you were honest. It was in relation to communication. You've been honest enough to admit communication hasn't been good. But the second part of my question in relation to unfinished business, you're a businessman and everything has a price. I think that was Martin was the gentleman who asked, how much would you sell the club for?
Right, okay.
So he's coming back and pointing out you're a businessman, everything's got a price.
Chris, you know, my answer to that is, I'm really not sure, you know, how you could put a price on it. You know, what are you buying at the moment? You know, you're buying the rights. You know, I'm the only person that can run Speedway with a 30-mile radius of Coventry. You know, I am the only person. I bought those rights. You know, that's what you're buying, and you're buying some rider assets. You know, it's such a tough question, that one. You know, I can't put a price on it. I mean, no one's come forward, made any offers. So, you know, as I said earlier, for me, it's unfinished business, and I'm just keep my fingers crossed that we'll give it 100%, and you know, we'll get through this.
Okay, a message from Pete. I don't know if he's referring to the actual Facebook Live or generally what we're talking about, but he said, from what I'm hearing, this sounds like a painful car crash to listen to. And clearly you've got a history of badly judged decisions at Coventry. Is it not time to move over and let someone else take the reins with a bit more business nous?
Well, you know, I don't know the answer to that one either, Chris, to be quite honest. No one's come forward. As I said, you know, I would not sell the club to certain people anyway. And another point of view, you know, like I said earlier, you know, I wouldn't sell to anybody. You know, it's got to have a really good plan ahead for the bees to really make me consider it.
Okay. A couple of questions here from Connor, who says, do you think in the next few years we've got a chance to get back to Brandon or anywhere in the Coventry area? You must think we have a chance, I guess.
Yeah, we've always got a chance. We've always got to, you know, keep faith, and you know, I'm sure, you know, there's always a chance. You know, you never say never. You know, as I said, the campaign group doing a wonderful job. You know, Councillor Michael Stokes is always championing the cause. You know, there's an awful lot of support, and you know, you never know, Chris. You never, you know, my thinking is like, if the worst was to happen, at least let's have a new home.
Okay, this one, I think this might be actually congratulating you in a way. It says, it's from Ian, it says, I love Speedway, having watched for longer than I care to admit, ridden for a few years, not a superstar, but been there, done it. I'm still involved via running training schools. I still don't get why you would take so much abuse and financial losses and keep going.
Yeah, Ian, I get a few people after that question, you know, but whether fans believe it or not, you know, I am a proud man. I really am a proud man, and some of the criticism I get, you know, everybody's entitled to their own opinion. I understand that, But sometimes when some of the criticism comes forward that actually isn't true, it really hurts. It really hurts me. It hurts my family. And and like I said, I feel as though I've got unfinished business. I love this sport, and I want to stay involved with this sport to the day I die.
I think, well, one of the things you mentioned to me on the phone when we discussed doing the Facebook Live a few weeks ago was when you said maybe you have kept too quiet about things because things do affect you on a personal level, and also members of your family and stuff who see people writing things and saying, you're the worst thing since sliced bread kind of thing, and you've had a bad effect on Coventry Speedway.
Yeah, you're right, Chris. It hasn't been easy. As I said, it's been. I said just during that time, from sort of November to sort of February, there was so much going on behind the scenes, and Speedway was in the middle of everything, and it was like an awful situation to be in. As I said, I was damned if I said anything. I was damned if I didn't. And yes, I look back now and I regret. I need to have my say. And I just hope this helps a little bit. But as I said, going forward, I will be open.
Which fits with what you said in relation to Council of Stokes, Brandon Estates and Sandu. Bring it on. Have a forum.
Yeah, absolutely. And to be fair, to Mr. Sandu, to be fair to, say, Brandon Estates, let everybody have their say. And anything that I say, or Mr. Sandu says, or Council of Stokes says, I'm sure they will be able to back it up with proof.
Yeah.
Because I certainly can. And I just, I have no problem at all with that. As I said, I have offered to do that. I offered that to Jeff Davis. But his answer was, which understandably maybe the correct answer was, well, it's all water under the bridge now, let's move on. Well, that's fine. That's fine. But, if they wanted that, then I'd be happy to join that table.
Okay, next question is from Lucy. It's quite a long one. Going back to Mick saying fans need to go and support the bees. Sometimes it's easier to say that and go and support the lads. She can't afford to go all the way to Leicester and pay for a ticket, and I'm sure many other fans are in the same boat. My other worry is that if it all works out and we can track share and the fan base increases as you want it to, will it be seen that the fans are happy, so let's just stay where we are, and you'll do away with looking for a stadium in Coventry where it belongs?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. As I said, I see the Leicester venture. As I said, we don't know what's going to happen this season, because it's not just about the bees. It's about Leicester as well. Okay, so there's two clubs racing and the support for both clubs. Okay, so there's a lot riding on it. And my personal opinion is, 3 years. I'd like to think 2019 we'll have a new home, or back to Brennan. Who knows? But I think if you go beyond 3 years or something, will you end up like Crazy, say, for example? The best supported probably club in the National League. And my heart goes out to them, and they've been trying for years.
Right. I just spotted one there that was quite a good one. If you remember, there was the question in relation to the Brandon Estates money and it being with the solicitors in an account and stuff. And the same person's come back to say, so why do you still have their money then? If they've asked for it back, why do you still have it now?
Well, a straightforward answer to that question. I've never, ever had that money. It's in my solicitor account. The solicitors deal with Brandon Estate solicitors.
Right. Okay.
I've never had that money.
Okay, now a few questions ago we covered the stuff, the fact that me and you had words in the past and stuff, and you asked for a little bit more suggestions from people as to who they're on about. So we've had several suggestions, Mick. We've had Nuneaton Speedway Supporters Club, Kenneth Hansen, Blaine Scroggins, Colin Pratt.
Yeah.
So that's in relation. That's in relation to the things saying that you've had some fallings out with people in the past. Is it going to persist at Leicester? I think.
And out of total respect for those people they've mentioned, yeah, I do sincerely hope and believe that fans will know there's always two sides to every story. And believe me, there are two sides of all those you've just mentioned.
Okay.
And it would be unfair of me to discuss that, and I won't discuss that. But, you know, if somebody wants to ask me face to face, I'm quite happy to tell them. But, you know, I don't think that is for public knowledge.
Okay. Matt had his calculator out, and he says if a National League meeting costs $4,000, you need 308 full-paying adults to break even. And so do you have the revenue streams to help cover the $4,000, such as food outlets and sponsorship, etc.? Well, we know we've got no sponsorship as yet.
Yeah, and we have no food outlets either. That's all. That we get nothing. All we get is a bit of, maybe, you know, some air fence banners if we sell some, for sponsorship perhaps, program advertising, and admissions money.
I suppose it's awkward with it being at Leicester, because obviously they're going to have all their own signage and artwork up and that type of stuff. And it'd be a bit like when there's a Grand Prix when they used to be at Coventry and they used to have to cover up the boardings and put their own up on the day and stuff. It's awkward.
Yeah, we don't get any of that, Chris, and that's part of the contract that we entered into, and that's understandable, you know. And it would be no different if a club came to Coventry, you know. And if a club approached me, I would have the same decision, you know. All the food outlets, etc., food and drink. To be honest, it's no different to the deal I had with Mr. Sandu. We had the highest rent in the country, and we had no food outlets, no drink outlets. We didn't get a single penny from that. Nothing. Not even a cup of coffee. Nothing. You know. So, and I get that. I totally get that, because it's the stadium, and I understand that. So, yeah. And the next half of the question was, you know, unless we get, you know, an influx of fans come forward, which I hope we do, or some sponsors come forward, which I hope we do, you know, if that's not the case, then it'll be my business, my personal business, and the rider sales that will be subsidising the club.
Okay. Let's move on to the next question. This is from Connor, and he says, what do you think about what Brandon Estates have done to the stadium? And do you think everything that they've done can be fixed? So I'm guessing he's meaning by that, not necessarily what Brandon Estates have done, maybe, but by the fact that there've been the gypsies in and that kind of stuff, the damage that's been caused. Can it be fixed?
I don't know is the answer to that question. I mean, I really don't know. What I can say, the only thing that is salvageable is the track itself.
Yeah.
You know, and my belief is, that's always been my belief. Yeah, we could run Speedway. You know, we could quite easily. We don't have to have the lights. We could run on a Saturday afternoon or a Sunday afternoon. You know, the track is there. You know, and it wouldn't take a great deal to be up racing again. You know, but obviously we can't use the stands and stuff like that because of health and safety reasons. But you know, there is possibilities.
This is quite a funny one, actually. We'll do this. We'll do Martin's question again. Martin was the guy who asked you in relation to the price, and came out with it like everyone's got a price. He just wants to know: does he win the toughest question of the evening prize?
Absolutely, Martin. Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you very much.
Okay, the next one's from Steve. He says, Mick, you had the choice not to collaborate with Turley as part of the Brandon Estate planning application. You could have walked away from this, but you chose not to. Can you defend this decision, please?
No, I can't defend that decision, to be honest. Yeah, they asked me, the question they asked me, okay, did I honestly believe Speedway on its own was viable at Coventry? And that's the truth, Chris. That is all I've said to them. Speedway, and I've told various people in the past, and Speedway fans know this. Speedway on its own at Coventry is not viable.
Right, this is an interesting one, and it was from Martin. He said, Chris, would there be any chance of a similar event with Mr. Sandu, as in what we've put together tonight with yourself? I'm sure you can put me in touch with Sandu to see if it would be a possibility, but do you think he'd be up for it?
Well, I can't really comment on that. That's up to Mr. Sandu. But I'm like I've said before. I've got absolutely nothing to lose. I'm happy to answer any questions that's thrown at me.
Okay. Next one's from David, and he says this is a serious question. Would Mick turn up at a planning meeting to protest against Brandon Estates' planning application? And he stressed it. And he stressed it as a serious question. Would you actually turn up at a planning meeting to protest against it?
I suppose I would. Yeah. I mean, I've actually had discussions with Brandon Estates and Rugby Council and the Planning Office. Looking at options available to us. If you're involved with Coventry Bees or a general Speedway fan, come to think of it, who wouldn't protest about it? I have just been realistic, and I think most fans are realistic. When you've got a site that's been sold to developers, yeah, you really have got an uphill battle, and which could take years. And Chris, do you know what the worrying thing is? The worrying thing is, I honestly don't know of any campaign group or that's ever been successful. And I think we've got a great chance. Don't get me wrong. I think we're just put an unbelievable effort together. But you've got to be realistic. We've got to be realistic, and and take it as it is. We've just got to keep fighting. And I say, if you're asking me to protest, would I be protesting? Yes, I would.
Okay. Well, as it stands at the minute, that's all the questions as far as I can see, unless I've missed one. So we're just going to give people a final chance to pop anything else onto the Speedway Shout question box if you'd like to ask any questions. Really, to sum up of some of the things that obviously Mick's mentioned, he's more than happy to work with the Save Coventry Speedway team in relation to moving forwards. What else can you sum up, Mick, that's come out from it?
Well, I think I just hope that the answers I've given is I know I'm not everybody's cup of tea. I know I'm not going to please everybody, but I just hope that after some of the things I've said tonight, that fans just might think, you know what? It doesn't matter about Mick Horton. It doesn't matter about Mick Horton. Let's have a bit of respect for those 7 riders who are putting on that race jacket, yeah, and are going to give their all for Coventry Bees. It's not their fault that the position they're in. It's no one's fault at the moment, and I just hope they would they give us some support.
Some of the other things that you mentioned, obviously, was that you'd be more than happy to do a public fans forum along with Councillor Stokes, Mr. Sandu and Brandon Estates if they're all willing to be in attendance.
Absolutely, 100%.
And in relation to Leicester, it's a short-term thing. It can be extended if need be, but your overall aim is to get back to Brandon or at least to the Coventry area. Yeah,
that's correct, Chris. Obviously we'd love to go back to Brandon, but saying that, obviously we'd like our own new home in the Coventry rugby area. Absolutely. And as far as that's concerned, as I said, once again, I'm actually grateful to Leicester. They didn't have to do this. They're helping out. Their staff are helping out. And as I said, I don't know how long we'll be there. We just take it one day at a time.
Right, let's just have a very quick look. I think we've got a couple of more later questions come in. Let me just check. Did you send in your letter of rejection to Brandon Estates planning application? Yeah, you did. If so, can you make this readily available for all to see? Would you be willing to do that?
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, okay. We can do that either through the Speedway Shout page, or if Mick wants to put it on his own Facebook. Obviously, not everyone's friends with Mick on Facebook. If he wants to send it to us, we can publicise it via the Speedway Shout page. It's not a problem. Let's have a look. Anything else? Why did Max? That's a question for myself. I mean, I can't really answer it. Obviously, me and Mick had words at the time. It's a question from Ian that just said, "Why did Mick sack you from Brandon by text?" It was just a falling out between the two of us over an opinion on something, really.
I suppose. Yeah, but I mean, these sort of things happen a lot, Chris.
Yeah.
As you know, but how long can you, keep behaving like this? It's a case, you got to move forward, isn't it? I'm not going to be perfect, but I'm going to do my best.
Okay, let's see if we can just shoot these final ones. I don't think this is as tricky as Martin's other question, but it says, how many years is Mick willing to run for at Leicester for if it's a loss this year? Will that be it?
No, I don't think so. No. It probably depends how well my company does. We don't know. I mean, we just don't know. Chris is, we just don't know what support we'll get. We don't know what sponsors we'll get. As I've said before, that the rider sales, I don't know what sort of prices I'm going to get for the riders. I don't know, as I say, how well my own business will do. There's so many ifs and buts.
And there's a kind of a question here from Trevor trying to hit that in the head to you. If, like myself, who once rode a few meetings for the Coventry junior team, just to pull on, like you mentioned, that Bees race jacket is something that you've aimed for a long time as you've been training as a young speedway rider. And he's put, as like you, Mick, I feel sorry for the 7 lads having to read that they will not get the support. Do you think and hope people will change their minds and get behind the team and forget about the people behind the scenes?
Yes, I do, Chris. And do you know what I honestly believe? I think if a Coventry fan loves their speedway and loves their club, it doesn't matter who the individual is who owns the club. It's irrelevant about individuals. And I do believe, I think if you love your speedway, it's a great time to come along. 3 o'clock on a Sunday, kids can get home, sensible time to get home. I do believe they will come along. I really do.
Yeah, and we've just had quite a few people who posted on just to say that they'll be there to support us at Leicester, so that's nice to see. We're going to make this the final question, and there's just a few comments that people have put that I just wanted to read out. This one's from Steve. He says, I'm going to have to press you on this, Mick, but the comments you gave to Turley have been used in Brandon Estates' defence. Weren't you just being a bit naive?
Absolutely. I may well have been naive, but I told the truth. I told the truth. The question clearly was, and I've not just mentioned it to them, I've mentioned it to lots of people, and it's quite well known that certainly in the top flight speedway, it's very, very difficult to survive just running speedway on its own. It really is, and you can speak to any promoter in the land who's done in their club, unless you own your own stadium, okay, and even then, it's really tough. I know promoters who own their own stadium, and they've got to subsidise the speedway with stock cars and other events. It is difficult, but why do they do it? Because they love the sport. That's why they do it.
Okay. One last thing. I did say that was the last one, but there is one last thing that's come in, which is probably quite important that I asked before. I just go through some of the other messages that we've had just to say that people are looking forward to the season and stuff. And it's from Sue again, who said, has everything, listen very carefully to this, Mick, has everything you've said about your relationship with Brandon Estates been true, or will something appear at some point to prove you've lied?
Well, I believe it's true.
Okay, that's fair enough. So we've had a few messages came through earlier on this afternoon. The British Fans Speedway Association on Facebook, Paul Wood and Alan Atherton have set this up to be a bridge between the fans and the BSPA to try to combat negativity in the sport. and to help and back the super fans, the promoters, who risk a lot more financially than the fans, as you know. We wish you all at the Bees all the best with your brave new venture and hope the majority of Bees fans support you. It's time to look forward and not back. A message from Bob, who says, I'll be at some meetings to support the riders. Connor, me and my dad will be at Leicester. We will follow the Bees in any league. A message from your old co-promoter, Neil Watson, who says, I think Mick's going to be congratulated this evening. 90 minutes answering unscripted questions is quite an achievement. Martin says, I agree, Neil. Fair play to him for doing this. I've said that, in my opinion, this is far too late, though it shouldn't have been early March, but it's been resolved now or covered. Mark says, I'll be there when I'm not working. Ian, thanks to you both and Lightning, and I'm personally on the fence now. So we haven't quite got him there. He's still teetering, Mick.
Do you know what, Chris? My wife to be sitting here. She, what you just said has reduced it to tears, bless you. Oh. But you know what, Chris? It's such kind remarks there. Comments. It really is kind of people say that. I am a little bit frustrated why there's certain people who just hell bent trying to trip me up, and I don't understand. I just don't understand. It's not about me. It's irrelevant. Whatever I've done, let's think of the club. Let's go forward together, yeah, and let's enjoy it.
Exactly. So we're going to finish on that note. One final thing, and this is from John Armstrong, who's going to be part of the team at Leicester this year for the Coventry Bees. He says, myself and the 6 other lads will be giving it 110%. Please come along, give the National League a chance. Let's make this work and keep the Bees name alive. From Armo.
Chris, can I just add something, please?
Of course.
Can I just say one thing that I'm not sure fans are aware of, yeah, but John Armstrong doesn't have any hair. He hasn't got any hair anymore.
Really?
When he last rode with Coventry, he had hair. So I'm sorry to say that he's got no hair.
Yeah. Has he grown?
He's as tall as me.
Oh, right. So he's a short arse as well. Okay. Smashing. Well, thanks for the opportunity, Mick. I'm sure, a lot of the fans will listen back to this. If you've been listening and you want to share it, when you've listened to it, share it so people can hear. Hopefully we've answered all the questions. I haven't missed any. As far as I can see, we certainly have on the Speedway shout box and also the ones we've had through via email. And from myself, I look forward to seeing as many of you as possible at Leicester to support the Coventry Bees this year. Do you want to finish off, Mick?
Well, all I've got to say, as well as the 17 riders, I want to welcome on board Martin McDonald, our new team manager. He's people who don't know him. He's been involved with Coventry for a long, long time. He's mechanic for several top riders, and the man is so excited. He's so looking forward to it. And as I say, I would just like to sign off and thank everybody. As I said, I know I'm not going to please everybody, and I know there's people out there who just won't accept anything I say. But as I say, please put the club first, and thank you for your time.
Great stuff. Thanks very much, everybody. We'll see you hopefully on the terraces at Leicester supporting Coventry Bees.